at my company, if the choice was, do you want to never hire again, or do you want to never use Claude Code again, or let's say never use AI again, I would choose to never hire again.
Is that true? You have been given death threats for an 84-hour work week.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. We're
14 hours a day.
That is promoting 84 hours a week.
If you look at this company and you say, this company is not going to be a $100 billion public company, then you should not work here. It's only worth it if you believe this is going to be really big. It's after the week, it's hard to survive.
It is.
I'm like on Fridays, I usually leave a little early on Fridays, like 6:30.
So hello everyone, today we have one of the coolest startup in San Francisco from Georgia Tech. I want to talk about AGI first of all. There are three kinds of people in the world. Number one, who are very optimistic about AGI and they don't want to try any other tool other than ChatGPT, Claude Code, etc. or Cursor. They believe that AGI will come one day and all the tools they need will be integrated in one place. They don't need any other tool in the world. That'll be their full-time software engineer they can deploy. Number two kind of people are who just don't believe in AGI. They just don't want to try at all. They're very pessimistic. And number three kind of people are like me and also like you, who believe AGI is here to an extent. It's more important to build systems around it, what we have. If we have an intern level of AGI, not a full-time engineer or employee level of AGI, it's more important to make systems around it so that it's better than an average software engineer rather than like the 1%, scientist we want to invent. So hi Daksh, can you please introduce yourself and let's talk about your mindset. What do you have about AGI? And then building in the space of software development, because his platform Greptile is one of the top software development code reviews, and also it's like an API which you can use to test your software and like find bugs. He has what's the number? How many bugs have been reported? 85,000? I forgot.
Now it's like a couple 100,000 a month.
Couple 100,000 bugs caught with Greptile every single month. Okay, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'm Daksh. I'm one of the co-founders of Greptile. We are building AI agents that review pull requests and catch bugs for software companies. We work with over 1,000 software companies today, including Brex, Substack, Whoop, among others. I'm personally very interested in sort of what the future of software engineering should look like. I started programming when I was 12, 13 years old. We were building sort of simple games on my computer. I think a lot of people sort of in that era of programmers started out building games in middle school or high school.
High school in India?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And so just building random things. And, if you recall, like building software earlier was just this extremely tedious task, and the tooling wasn't very good yet. I mean, building front ends pre-React, pre-Next was very, very hard for web apps, and we didn't have these really nice programming languages that we have now and these very nice frameworks. And over time, we developed very, very good tooling for software, and software engineering became more fun. You could now go from the ideas that you had to real software even faster. And then with the large language models, we had this extraordinary watershed moment in the history of software engineering, where you could now start operating in even higher order of abstraction. And that was really exciting for people like me that said, I'm very impatient. I want the software to be built faster, and now I can just kind of express the things that I want. Of course, the downside is that because these agents now produce code at this extremely high velocity, as exciting as that is, to do this in a real-world production environment is hard. Using tools to generate code in production environments, merging them safely, that's a way harder problem than just writing code for a side project or as a student.
That's a very interesting problem you mentioned, because, when I was working at Microsoft, I have seen AI writing suggestions on my pull request that like, hey, you can fix syntax errors. Minor fixes here and there are pretty good, well thought out by AI on the PR. But people don't realize that why there is need of it if AI one day will already be better. Because if you look at Claude Code, it's already going through 10 thoughts and finding its opinions. There is MCP where you can already talk to multiple AI and fight through their opinions and then ship the finest code to the pull request. Why do you think there is demand for better pull requests if AI is going to ship the best quality code already?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question. So there's a couple of things. So one is that AI today actually is imperfect. If you write code, and obviously imperfect might be an understatement. In practice, like some of the code that AI writes is great, some of it is really terrible. And the truth is that even as the agents get infinitely intelligent, we are not getting better at giving instructions year on year. Humans are not getting smarter every year. And it's hard for us to express exactly what we want upfront to an AI. And so what happens in practice is we work with these agents iteratively. So in Cursor, you don't say build Salesforce. You give it pieces. You go do this, then do this, then do this. You might do this at the level of per pull request one prompt, and this is very unrealistic. There's only a small, easy number of tickets that can be done that way. And you probably work with these agents very iteratively. Now, if humans are going to be involved that deeply, no matter how smart the AI gets, it will still be producing mistakes because humans are involved and humans make mistakes. So in reality, that's one sort of source of errors and mistakes that happens in code. The second aspect of it is that the tools that people use to build software will always be fragmented. And that's because if we're going to work with these AIs very closely and these tools very closely, engineers are very opinionated about what tools they want to use. Some people will prefer Cursor, some people prefer Cloud Code, some people prefer Client, and so on. And if everyone is using different tools to write their code, you will need some sort of standardizing layer. And it turns out that the way in which we produce software through Git and in GitHub is we open pull requests and we write code. It doesn't matter how we write the code. If you go to a software company in 2018, pre-AI, everyone's using a different IDE. They write their code, they open a pull request, and then this becomes the central control point for all code. It needs to be checked there. The CI/CD runs there, the tests run there, and then you're able to merge the code. And that abstraction already exists. And so what we've done is say, we know that everyone's going to be using different agents and different tools to write the code. And at Greptile, at the pull request layer, we'll provide a standardized review layer where you have a standard set of rules that apply, standard set of checks that happen. And you have this one entity that checks all the code in a consistent way. So that's really where the value of a centralized testing comes in. So even if the models get better, humans will still be involved. So the code will still have some issues in it because humans are involved, and then everyone's going to be using different tools, and so you'll need some consistency from a centralized checking layer.
So just like we have huge need for CI/CD pipelines, which checks through if our code is ready to go into production, release. Similarly, we need one central layer which checks, verifies AI written code or our own written code, one centralized way which has all the set of rules, our own liking right there. And do you think your part goes along with CI/CD? It replaces CI/CD or augments CI/CD?
Yeah, in many ways, it's a part of the CI/CD pipeline. It isn't in a very literal way in that it doesn't run in GitHub Actions, but it is part of the pipeline that takes code from an open pull request to deployed, safe, secure, merged code.
I am really fan of your designs. Like, look at this dragon eating the bug. I love that design. You put a lot of work into it.
First, our designer is Ravina. She was one of the early hires at Greptile. She's extraordinary. She's done great work. Everyone should look at her work on her website. She has a lot of her cool stuff. All of the design is completely hers.
I'm going to talk about Greptile later, but I want to talk about you first. I saw so many Reddit comments about you. You were getting death threats for your work culture in Silicon Valley, 84 hours a week, 14 hours a day. Why is that? 9-11-6. To be honest, right? It's 14 hours a day.
So look, I think in practice, my co-founders and I are the only ones that work that much. I think no one on the team is expected to, and we don't want people to, because that's not really a sustainable way to work. Obviously the rules are different for myself and my two co-founders, but the rules are different for others on our team. The simple truth is that we offer a product, right? The roles at this company are a product. We have our product, our code reviewer, but a role at Greptile is a product. And the audience of the product is potential hires. And this is the product we offer. The product we offer this is a company that's growing really, really fast. We are growing our revenue about 20% every month. We went from nothing to reviewing 1% of all code on GitHub. And that number is most likely going to grow by several multiples next year. We produce products that we're really proud of. We try our hardest, and it's a group of smart people working on really hard problems. We want to do something really extraordinary. We want to build a large public company. That's our goal. And if you believe that this team is capable of building a large public company, First of all, you'll notice it's an audacious goal. It's an extraordinary outcome to want, and extraordinary outcomes require extraordinary efforts. And if you look at this company and you say, this company is not going to be a $100 billion public company, then you should not work here. It's only worth it if you believe this is going to be really big. Why would you spend 100 hours a week working on something you don't think will get really, really big? So here's my pitch to potential hires. I'm going to give you all of the information about the company that investors have, and then some. You will know how much cash we have. You will know our revenue. You'll know our usage metrics, our retention. I will share with you all the information you need because you are a potential investor in the company. Investors invest money. You are investing something much more valuable than money, which is time. You're the most productive years of your life I'm asking you for. And I understand that that's a lot to ask out of a person. You will have all the information you need. We offer 4 times more equity than the average startup. We have a very, very generous equity packages. We have very, very, very generous cash packages too. We have 95th percentile cash packages. We usually, people that come from Google and Facebook, etc., usually are paid more here than they were paid at their previous jobs at Greptile. They're paid more. So that's the package. We have a small number of people, very highly compensated, and the goal is ambitious. The product is hard to build, and we're trying our best to build the really extraordinary version of it. And if you believe this is going to be a $100 billion company, and I'm going to give you all the information you need to make judgment, you can decide for yourself whether this is a company that's going to grow a lot or not. And if you think it's going to grow a lot, you're going to have a large stake in it. And it's going to be a lot of hard work. That's the product.
Is that true? You have been given death threats for an 84-hour work week.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I never actually said 84 hours. Interestingly enough, that was something that was kind of spun out. But the point is, look, 84, whatever the number might be, the number is high. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to work here, and that's I'm very upfront about it too. It's like, look, there's a lot of work. This is what you get in exchange, but this is a lot of work. With the death threats, I think like. If the only thing you hear about a company is that the people there work 100 hours a week, knowing nothing else, I think it's probably reasonable to not like the company. I think that's understandable. A lot of people that are working 100 hours a week are doing it because they don't have another choice. They're doing it because their company is exploiting them. They're doing it because their sort of managers lack empathy. There's a lot of people that are in that situation, and I genuinely feel for those people. But this is not for those people. The people that have joined Greptile came from very nice big tech jobs, and they were bored at those big tech jobs. And when they come to us and talk to us, say, hey, I've been at Google for 5 years. Google was awesome, but look, I just don't think it moves that fast. Obviously, it's a large company. It can't move that fast. And I'm just really looking for something that's like very high pace, very, very high velocity, and something that I think can grow 100x or 1,000x from here. That's what we offer. And we say, look, this might be that place. Here's all the information you need to make that decision. But that's who this is for.
I really like how transparent you are about it. Now, I want to get into your journey from becoming a YC founder, raising your seed round within months after YC, and now raising $25 million for Greptile. Like right now, the new startup founders I see, they show off immediately after YC that they have raised $500K. Now they're a $7 million company. Do you think this is overhyped?
Look, I think the interesting thing about software is, look, this has been a very lucrative industry for the last 20 or 30 years. And programming was a niche, weird thing to do, 20 years ago. And it's a lot more mainstream now in the way that finance was and consulting was, and now tech is sort of in that list. And the truth is, whenever there are opportunities to make very large amounts of money, you will draw a lot of people that are in it for the money, which is fine. Being in it for the money is fine. A lot of people think that's you should have some noble reason to build things, and you should not be motivated by money. I think it's fine. Whatever your motivation is, as long as it's strong, I think it's fine. And the problem, however, is that like fundraising is not an achievement. Fundraising is debt. Like that's what it is. Like it's like you don't celebrate when you get a loan from a bank. Yeah. You shouldn't celebrate when you. The fact is that we have been fortunate to not have a hard time fundraising, and it's because we don't pay attention to the fundraising. That's just a side product of what we're doing. Where we want to achieve some goals. We want to build really extraordinary products that create a lot of value for our customers. We want to work with really, really smart people. You want to solve really, really hard problems. That's what we want to do. I wake up every day and I'm really excited to go to work because I want to solve this problem. It's very interesting for me and I want to build things that I can be proud of. And to do this, I need a little bit of money, and we make a lot of that money ourselves because we have customers, and customers very happily pay us for our product. And sometimes you need a lot of money upfront. And thankfully, Silicon Valley has this thing called venture capital. And if you're one of those businesses that is growing really, really fast, you have access to this capital. You have to give up part of your company, and that's just part of the game. You have to give up part of your company. In exchange, you get this money, and it's just it's debt. It's like that's what it is. It's debt on the company.
I mean, it's great you take it as debt, but a lot of people just take it as building $7 million company in 2 days, applying for YC in 2 days, building some product, getting some traction, or without even product, just pre-idea, getting accepted to YC means, because you're raising 500K at 7%, that means you're basically a $7 million founder immediately. That's what I see on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. Sometimes is shown more as a show off as compared to a debt that you're going to build something big next day. What do you think about this culture?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times you hear from the loudest voices in the room, and they're not representative of how most people feel. When I did YC, my cohort had people that were a lot like me. They were like nerds that liked building cool things, and they were ambitious and they were smart, and most of them just kind of move in silence. Some of them are like loud and obnoxious like I am, and then a lot of others, like a company called Reducto was in my YC batch, and extraordinary founders, extremely smart, extremely technical, Ronak and Adit. And they do incredible things, and they're just like not very loud about it. They're on Twitter and they tweet about the interesting stuff they're working on, but they're not very loud about it. And I think that a lot of the best founders often go unnoticed because they're quiet. And then the founders that are sort of loud, some of them are good, some of them are not good, and like but that's who you hear from. So.
Okay, now. Coming back to your journey, so you came to Georgia Tech to study. You were working on a hackathon project where Greptile came from. So can you talk about that?
Yes, we're at a hackathon right now.
This is a Greptile-powered hackathon.
Yeah, we're co-hosting this with our friends at Stripe here in San Francisco, and I love hackathons. I think they're really fun. The initial idea for Greptile was formed at a hackathon. My co-founders and I went to a hackathon in San Francisco when we first moved here, which was the Scale AI hackathon in July of 2023. It was about 2.5 years ago. We were really interested in building tools for developers, and we wanted to teach models to understand large code bases.
So that was probably one of the first hackathons, one of the biggest hackathons here after ChatGPT 3.5.
Yes, it was. Yeah, Scale had done a hackathon 6 months before that one. We were still in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. We were still in school at the time. We'd heard about the hackathon because it's such a big thing. And then when they announced their second hackathon, my co-founders and I went. We almost didn't go.
Flew especially from Atlanta.
We actually had just moved. So we just moved to San Francisco a month before, after graduating.
Okay, after graduating.
Yeah. So we just moved here. We'd raised a little bit of money from an investor, and we decided to get a small Airbnb in San Francisco. It was one room in like the darkest, cloudiest part of the city. And we would pretty much just put a bunch of desks in there, and the three of us would just work in the room, and then we had mattresses that we would just put on the ground and sleep, and we just did that for a couple of months while we were figuring out what we wanted to build.
So you did a couple of great internships, but your plan after graduating was for sure to become a founder.
I actually went through college not wanting to be a founder. I have a lot of family that are small business owners, and some of them maybe own like small workshops or factories. Some of them are store owners, and entrepreneurship to me just looked like this extremely difficult, arduous thing. And on the other hand, I viewed working in big tech as this much more relaxed. There's a good work-life balance. There's a lot of the pay is very, very high.
And you're doing opposite.
But look, in college, that's what I felt I wanted to do. But that's the thing. My generation was told that we should seek out work-life balance, and then that's what would make us happy. And I think for a lot of people that's true. I think a lot of people should be seeking out a life where they have a lot of life, a big life outside of work. But that's not good advice for everyone. And turns out, after I met my co-founder and I started working on things, like what I really wanted was I wanted to pour myself into my work. That's where I get fulfillment from. Mm-hmm. I get fulfillment from just pouring myself into a project and sort of working on really hard things. And I am happiest at like 10 p.m. when me and a bunch of folks from my team, we're all gathered on a computer and we're looking at a demo from someone that just finished building an early version of a feature, and we look at it and we're all so excited. And just like, to some degree, it's like, who cares? It's like B2B software. Like, how are you excited to be? It's just a thing I care about. I just like engineering. I like programming. I like computers. And like, I see this stuff and it's just fun. It's like fun for me to look at it. Some people are really excited about tennis. Tennis is kind of an insane thing to be excited about. It's just like knocking a ball one side of the net and the other. But people get passionate. You can get passionate about anything, and like you can get passionate about, putting. I like tennis a lot for one, but you can get passionate about like completely random things. And the thing I'm passionate about is I like really like building developer tools, and that's just really fun for me.
So you got traction immediately after Hackathon?
Kind of actually. So about a week after the hackathon, we decided to use Stripe to just start charging our users and see, because our idea was that if people paid us for the product, it must mean we're building something good, and so we started charging, and people started paying us. I think one of our first customers was a company called Bland AI, and the founder of Bland, Isaiah, was our next door neighbor. At the time, Bland had just finished YC. They had pivoted, so they had like zero revenue, and they were like barely figuring things out. Most recently, Bland was valued at almost $300 million. They're a large company now, and Isaiah and I still hang out every now and then. And he was our first customer, paid us $40 a month, and that's how we got off the ground. And then we got another customer. I think our second or third customer was a company called Brev.dev. The founder, Nader Khalil, was working in the building next to ours. And at lunch, we were both eating a sandwich. And I was like, hey, we just launched this thing. Do you want to become our second ever customer? He also started paying us $40 a month. And Nader's company, Brev, about a year after that, was acquired by Nvidia. So Nader now runs the developer platform at Nvidia.
And they still use it? Nvidia uses it?
NDA. NDA. That team does not. That team does not use it. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's fascinating. That's the biggest advantage of Silicon Valley. Like, you found your first customers right next door.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Okay, and then you applied to YC, and now we are here.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So, I want to know about like code review once again. I want to dumb it down for some of the audience. The idea is, once again, if you want your AI to be full-time software developer, writing end-to-end code and shipping it, you need something like, first of all, like Claude Code, which is like in one short prompt, writes one of the best code I've seen. Like, I use Claude Code and Cursor a lot. I mean, Composer is amazing, but Claude Code, when you just see how beautifully it writes code, and then with one click of a button, I can deploy it. It's one of the most beautiful experience. I love coding way more because of that. And now, if some mistakes are done by Claude Code, Greptile is there to catch it. 800,000 plus bugs you have caught. This entire system, even though fundamental smaller parts of the system might be not as good as full-time software developer, they might be intern level, but connected as a whole can be better than an average software developer. That's why we see 30,000 plus layoffs at Amazon, Microsoft this year. Just Microsoft and Amazon, one of the biggest software companies, doing that many layoffs. This is an evidence that we are significantly closer to replacing some of our teammates for sure. Is that right?
Yeah, look, so I think the layoffs are something that I personally don't understand super well, because I'm just not in that type of situation. Large companies do layoffs for a lot of different reasons, and there was a bit of an engineering bubble. I was talking to one of our investors, and he said that Stanford is apparently 50% CS majors now. And like, that's a bubble of something. Like, I mean, I look at AI assets and people, this is a bubble, and it's like, yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's now actually clear that it is. But there's certainly an oversupply of computer science sort of majors. Maybe they all do just love programming, but probably not. Probably there's something else happening here. And it's just a lucrative thing, and lucrative things attract people. And there's probably going to be a bit of a downturn here. The truth is, I don't know how many people will be sort of employed as software engineers. But I can tell you for sure is we will produce more software in the next 5 years than we ever have in history. I think that is exceedingly clear. For a couple of reasons. One, the cost of producing software is going to go to zero. We are now producing way more code per hour than we used to. Things that would take months to develop can now be done in weeks, maybe even days. And that number is going to shrink over time. There's, if months become weeks, weeks will become days in the future. And if that happens, we will start building software for more stuff. I lived in India for a while, so I have an Indian bank account. And I'm a US citizen, so I do US taxes. Now, because I do US taxes, I have to report my Indian bank account. TurboTax doesn't have a way to fill out a foreign bank account form. So right now, if you go to TurboTax, you say, hey, you just have to do this manually, and you download this form and fill it out. And the question is, why didn't they just build this? Like, it seems like the number of people that are U.S. citizens with at least one foreign bank account would be a large enough number that they should support that, right? But they don't, because it's just like the amount of revenue they would make, it's called the F-bar. So the amount of money they would make building F-bar support is just like not enough to justify putting few engineers on it. But what happens if those engineers, you need like way fewer people and less time to build an F-bar support? You probably will build it. You'll build way more software. It'll get way more niche than that. Like you will have specific things for like people that have Wyoming trusts and like Cayman Islands trusts or whatever. Like there'll be people with like very weird tax situations. Maybe there's someone that is like sending money back to their home country. They maybe they maybe moved here from India or somewhere else, and they send money back to their family, and there are tax implications to that. Maybe there are people like me that are immigrants that have foreign holdings of some kind. Maybe your family owns an apartment or a house wherever you're from, and like you inherit that, and so all of these different situations will build. And this is like, now apply this to like the 100,000 domains for which we use software. Like you'll probably start writing software all these things we don't have good software for. Like how many times have you used a piece of software that just wasn't meant for the thing they used it for? It was like meant for a different thing, and you try to squeeze it into shape because your use case is too niche for someone to build good software for you. That's going to go away. Like the very, very niche use cases will have really good software. I think that's what I'm really, really excited about.
100%. I think that's a very beautiful point you mentioned. I also believe with AGI, like you mentioned taxes, right? I imagine a system where AGI or AI goes through all my emails, collect all the receipts, file taxes for me, and send it to IRS. That's a beautiful system. Dwarkesh Patel mentioned this. But I think this is, a lot of people say that this is only possible, the systems we're talking about, the complete, the AI taking over our jobs as software developers, when AI can learn and actually remember that feedback, just like an employee. Like Jane Street has a report that a senior developer or junior developer they hire is net negative in the first 6 months, but during those 6 months, when an employee takes feedback, improves, remember, human being remembers and takes feedback and keeps on improving, but AI doesn't. You give it feedback, it'll forget, the context will expire, context window is not large enough for that much 6 months of feedback. So when super intelligence come, it'll only come when they can continually learn over like a billion context window for months, years. So we cannot wait for that. That's why we have systems like this, which are already good enough to actually like replace 25% of the white collar workspace. I saw those reports. 25% of the white collar workspace can be replaced with the intelligence we have right now. We have to focus on that. And people sitting there are just waiting for just thinking that we shouldn't build. We should just wait for flying cars and not build cars that drive on the road. That's their idea, right?
Yeah, and I think
that's what they think.
I think to some degree, like AGI is a moving target. Like people keep redefining what it means. I think whatever definition of AGI we had 5 years ago, that one we have exceeded. Claude Code today is smarter than what we thought would be AGI 5 years ago.
Keep changing the definition.
We keep changing the definition. Yeah. And when I think of like, I think replacing jobs probably shouldn't be the right, the thing to optimize on. But doing useful work is the thing to optimize on. Like we should build systems that do useful work. We used to do manufacturing jobs, and then there were way more manufacturing jobs, and then factories got better and more automated, and now you don't need that many people to manufacture things anymore. And we came up with new stuff to do. Imagine explaining to like a factory worker in the 19th century that there's such a job as a TikTok content strategist now. Like imagine that explaining this. Like, there's a person that makes $300,000 a year, more than the GDP of entire cities in 19th century Europe, and their job is like to strategize TikTok content. Like, imagine explaining that to someone. They would like so. One of the frameworks I like to think through is like we probably can't imagine what the jobs of tomorrow will look like. We literally cannot picture it, and it will not look like work to us. What we picture to be work, it will not look like work to us. And one of the thought experiments that I like thinking about is if you picked up a farmer from the 19th century or a factory worker or something from the 19th century, and you brought them to the present day. You took them to an office like this one. This used to be the old Zendesk office. You took them to a software company office, a consulting company office. You walked in and you said, "This is what we do for work now." They would look at you and say, "This is not work. We have run out of things to do for survival. And there will come a day when we will run out of things to do for comfort. And there will come a day when we will run out of things to do for luxury. But we have already run out of things to do for survival." And it used to be that work was what you did to survive. And today it is what you do for comfort. Tomorrow it will be what you do for luxury. And one day that will go away too, and we'll come up with crazy jobs that you just cannot picture anymore. And there are pockets of America that are in post-scarcity. You can look at Pacific Heights in San Francisco. You can look at the Calabasas in Los Angeles. These societies live in a world that is beyond scarcity. In many of the people that live there live in beyond scarcity. And what do they do for work? They have these jobs that to a lot of people in third world countries do not look like jobs at all. They look like just like, what are these people doing? What do you mean you're a spiritual leader? Like that, what do you mean you're like a yoga instructor for dogs? Like these jobs don't make any sense to the people that like, it's like I work in a textile factory. I make clothes. It makes total sense. I produce clothes. People want clothes, but like it's hard to explain to that person that all these like weird jobs exist. That's what all jobs will look like 50 years from now.
I completely agree with you. I make hobby projects for fun, which used to be a job for me, like with Cloud Code. And coming back to the definition of AGI, would you define AGI like me, like a system capable of average software developer, or would you define as the 1% software developer?
I think that I don't think we should use human intelligence as the scale, because Cloud Code is already better at humans in a lot of things. It's also worse than humans in a lot of things. I would say it is more powerful than any one person is. At my company, if the choice was, do you want to never hire again, or do you want to never use Cloud Code again, or let's say never use AI again, I would choose to never hire again. Ideally, I would not want to be in that situation. I want to both hire more people and use more AI. But like if I had to pick one of the two, I would keep the AI. And whatever that tells you about AGI. So in my view, we already have AGI. We have AGI today. AGI to me is, can this do things that sort of like that humans can do and maybe beyond? Yeah. I mean, I use Cloud Code and I can make it do things that I think I would have a very hard time doing myself. Most people I know, I mean, I'm not a very good programmer, but it's certainly better than me at programming. And like in terms of pure raw skill, I think it's better than most programmers at programming.
Totally. As Elon Musk says, agency is more important than intelligence. Like, most of the founders are most of the founders have more agency. They're more likely to like take actions, deploy them immediately and as fast as possible, even though they might not have depth of knowledge of, transformers, AGI, AI systems.
Yeah.
What AI systems you use, like Post-Hog, Cursor, in your team to move really fast?
I use Cloud Code. I use Cursor, especially the new Cursor. I use Circleback as my meeting recorder. It's very good.
Granola is more popular in the Valley. It's similar to meeting recorder. Yeah.
Yeah. So Circleback is awesome. The notes are great. I've heard great things about Granola too. I use a company called Erggo for sales. They automatically update your CRM. I think they're awesome. And I'm trying to think. I use a lot of AI. I use Gumloop. Gumloop is great. I use Zapier too for different things. They're both ways to build automations.
Like N8N.
Like N8N. Yeah. I haven't used N8N, but I've also heard good things about that. Of course, I use Greptile to review all my code. I'm actually, if I'm being honest, a bad programmer. So Greptile finds a lot of problems with my code, but it's been very helpful.
Last question. If most people think that like the heat of the earth is going to take over the universe with AGI, that's why they're not building. They're just waiting for magic to happen and jobs to be revolutionized. What advice would you give them? Like to move with the bubble and find problems and like, move with the bubble and build something and be useful, or like just be far away and just be watching people build?
So there's a really good Paul Graham essay called How to Do Great Work. And what Paul Graham says is you should follow your intellectual curiosity. You should get really, really deep into a field that you have a lot of curiosity about. Go all the way to the edge of that field. Find gaps and then fill in those gaps. And that is how all great work gets done. So if the thing that's interesting to you, like for me, is to build better ways to code and build software, then get really, really good at programming. Get to the edge of programming and then see, okay, looks like there are some gaps in how code gets produced, and it has to do, in our case, we've noticed that it had to do with the fact there's no standardized way to check AI code. And that's what we built. And that's where we found our product market fit.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daksh, for sharing incredible insights about Greptile. All the best, and I love your platform. Thank you.